Hey, what is going on, guys? Xpertfusion here, and in this video I want to talk about a couple things. So I want to talk about my concerns with the game, with World War II, Call of Duty World War II, of course, the multiplayer specifically. Any concerns I have, not really complaints, because there's a lot of things that we don't really know everything about to the point where I really can't make much of an opinion on it. But these are just concerns just for the future of the game to see how it's going to be. And we're also going to talk about other people's complaints and me kind of debunking their complaints. So let's talk about the other people's complaints first. So since this Call of Duty seems to be so great so far, and a lot of people are liking it, and there's not many things people can complain about. There's no, obviously we don't know anything about supply drops, so you can't really complain about those. Which, like I said a million times, I don't see them as a problem anymore. There's no futuristic stuff. There's no boost jumping anymore. All that's gone. So, what do these haters complain about? Now, the main complaints they've had there's a couple things. They've said it copied Battlefield 1, is first of all. They said they don't like how there's women and black people in the game, and they don't like how there's no swastikas in the game. Now, I can debunk all these really easily. So, first of all, they did not copy Battlefield 1. This game was in development before Battlefield 1 even came out. Just coincidence they look alike, and that's not really a weird thing because it's obvious. I mean, one of them's World War I, one of them's World War II. Obviously, they're completely different wars, but they are still both historically accurate games in historically accurate places, and that makes them look similar, and that's just how it's gonna go. I mean, and another thing that they complain about is the fact that there's women and black people in the game because they say it's not historically accurate. Now, that is just wrong because there actually were women and black people within World War II. Now, they weren't primary roles, obviously. They weren't, that popular. They didn't fight on the front lines in the United States Army, but there were some in the armies. There were some in other, groups like the French, the Soviet Union had some, even Germans had some, not the Nazis, but the Germans, because they are different groups of people, trust me. And so, obviously, there was different groups of people, and there were some women and some black people in there. Now, whether or not they're going to portray them as Americans within the multiplayer doesn't really matter. I mean, people were like, oh, how come there's 5 women on one team and only 1 guy on a team? That's not historically accurate. Well, it's multiplayer, so shut the fuck up. When has multiplayer ever been historically accurate? Really? When is it ever? I mean, there were women and there were black people in World War II, so that part of it is historically accurate. And yeah, you might say, having 5 black people to 1 white person is not historically accurate, but what do you want them to do? Do you want them to limit the amount of black people and limit the amount of women in the multiplayer? Only 1 person each team can be a woman, only 1 person each team can be a black person? Really? Like, that's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Why would you limit the people to what they want to do? This is all about what we want to do, our customization. And if you take away that privilege, you're just taking away basically our ability to be who we want, and that's kind of something games shouldn't do. Games should allow us to do what we want, and that's just something that we want. And you might say, oh, I don't want other people to be them. Who fucking cares? There's no immersion. It doesn't take away from the immersion of the game. It's multiplayer. It's not meant to be historically accurate. Now, campaign is kind of a different story, but they've said plenty of times in campaign it's going to be to the point where the black people and the girls are going to be very, very slim. They're not going to be very commonly in the game. And when they are in the game, they're going to be in the right places at the right battles, the right times, and they're not going to be in places that they weren't. Like, for example, they're not going to be at D-Day. If you saw the trailer, there were no people in the D-Day battle. There were no women, I'm saying, in the D-Day battle. So, obviously, they're not going to have any of them there. Now, if there's a map that's in D-Day, in multiplayer, and they have women in it, who cares? It's fucking multiplayer. So, you got to stop complaining about that. I don't see why people are complaining about that. I really don't understand. I mean, I'm not a feminist in any way, shape, or form. I fucking hate feminism. But I don't see why it's a problem about having women or black people within the game. I really, really don't. Like, what are you going to complain about not having fucking... I'm just, at the end of the day, it's just not something people should complain about because it is historically accurate. But in terms of multiplayer, having more women than guys or whatever, it's like, who cares? It's your choice. Just leave it at that. Now, they also complain about swastikas. Now, they've confirmed swastikas are in the campaign and they are not in multiplayer or zombies. Now, I don't see why that's a bad thing because, like I said, that's the only thing that's supposed to be historically accurate is the campaign. And it's just a fucking symbol. Like, even if they didn't have it in campaign, I would not give a shit. It's just a symbol. It is literally just a symbol. And the reason why they're not doing it is simply because they can't sell the game in countries that don't allow swastikas, like Germany and I believe Poland doesn't. I'm not too sure about that. Don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure there's a couple other countries, especially European countries, that do not allow swastikas. So they would not be able to sell this game in there. You could say, oh, can't they just make 2 separate versions of it? Well, if they did that, we wouldn't be able to play with them. They would not let us play with them in their versions of the game. And that's just too much, because, I mean, you have to go in every Nazi's patch that has, like, you know, a Nazi symbol. They have to go through each and every one of those and change them, and they just didn't want to do that for multiplayer or for zombies. Campaign, though, they said, yes, it has to be historically accurate, so they are keeping it. But in terms of multiplayer and zombies, who cares? We're going to get the Iron Cross. Iron Cross was used in real life sometimes, so I don't see why it's that big of a deal. I mean, we got it in Zombies Chronicles, and it doesn't really seem like anyone really cares too much, so leave it at that. Leave it at that. I'm completely fine with an Iron Cross. I don't give a shit. I would like the swastika over it, yes, but I don't really care. At the end of the day, I don't care. Now, here are my concerns, my personal concerns with the game. I only have a few, and they're not complaints or anything, because I think they will do it correctly. I just hope these things are built upon. First of all, War Mode. I was expecting War Mode to be 12v12 or 10v10 or something big, a bigger battle. 6v6 is what it is, and that is not what I was hoping. Also, I was hoping for vehicles that you're playable in, that you can drive themselves, but it seems like in War Mode, at least the map that we see, the tank isn't actually drivable. It just drives on its own path, and you can just jump in it and shoot the gun, which is still cool and all, but I was hoping for actual vehicles that you can drive yourself and control yourself, and maybe we'll get that on some other maps, so I don't know. And for 6v6, maybe they'll change it and make it a little bit more. Maybe they'll make it 8v8 and 9v9, 10v10, 12v12 is what I wanted. Maybe the maps are too small for that. I don't know, but the maps seem pretty big in my opinion, and they could just make bigger maps if they really wanted to. So I don't see the big problem with that. You know, I'm not going to complain if they don't, but I'm not going to complain, you know, if they do. Obviously, I'd rather them to make it more players, obviously, and give us vehicles. It would be nice. I'm also a little concerned about the created class system, the whole division system. At least from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like we know too much about it. But from what I've seen, it looks like there's limited perks to limited weapons, and I don't like that, but we'll have to see how they do it, because I don't know exactly how it's going to be. Because, like, what if you want to use Flak Jacket with a sniper rifle? It doesn't look like you can. It looks like Flak Jacket is only applicable to a certain class. Like I said, we'll have to see how they do that to actually make a full opinion on it. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. In the coming few days, I'm going to be coming out with videos talking about all the guns we've seen so far within World War II, all the perks we've seen, all the score streaks and everything that is in the game so far. A whole video just describing everything, putting it all together, so you don't have to go watching 20,000 different videos to be able to find out what is in the game from what we've seen so far in gameplay of other people's gameplay. Obviously, I didn't go to E3, I wasn't able to play, but from what I've seen, I'm going to talk about every gun that we see so far, every class, every, whatever there is, perk, score streaks, maps, all that, in a video, probably tonight, maybe tomorrow, I don't know. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.